Monday morning, July 19, 1976, the Société Générale bank in the heart of Nice was slowly waking up after a quiet weekend. The employees arrived on schedule, ready for the routine workday. The festivities of Bastille Day had just ended, and the city was still in a celebratory haze. At exactly 8 a.m., the staff approached the bank's vault, a fortress-like chamber hidden beneath the main hall. But something was wrong. The manager carefully entered the code to unlock the door. The mechanism clicked as expected, but the massive steel door didn't move. He tried again and again. It was as if the vault had been sealed shut from the inside. Confusion turned to panic. The management called the police. The first officers arrived 15 minutes later. They tried to break the lock or at least pry the door open, but nothing worked. After several hours of work by professionals, the cause of the problem became clear. The door hinges had been welded from the inside. How could this be possible, considering the vault was locked from the outside and there was no guard inside? Questions and suspicions arose. The police had to cut through the metal and destroy the locks. The Société Générale bank, located in the very heart of Nice, was one of the most secure vaults in Europe. From the outside, it looked like an impregnable fortress. 2-meter-thick walls made of monolithic concrete, a video surveillance system, and round-the-clock security. Cameras, motion sensors, and advanced technology covered every corner. Beneath the main hall of the bank was a special zone leading to the basement, and that's where the main vault was located. Covering an area of 20 meters, it was divided into several rooms, housing hundreds of safety deposit boxes and safes. The total value of the assets stored there was nearly 1 billion francs or $1.1 billion. The Société Générale bank was considered one of the most secure banks in all of Europe. Breaking into such a place was thought to be next to impossible. At least, that's what everyone believed until July 19, 1976. When the police finally breached the vault door, what they found inside was less a crime scene and more like the aftermath of a bizarre party, a hangover-style gathering, but in a bank vault. Empty wine bottles were scattered everywhere. The floor was littered with trash and leftover food. On the walls, they found risque photographs taken from one of the opened deposit boxes. And on the safes, a huge message was written: "No weapons, no violence, and no hate." And all of this in the heart of the impregnable bank. It turned out that about 10% of the deposit boxes had been broken into. The total value of the loot was 50 million francs, which is approximately $55 million in today's money. There were no signs of forced entry from the outside because the thieves had entered from below. 13 years after the legendary heist, in a small town near Nice called Eure, the body of a man was discovered. When his identity was revealed, the French press exploded. It was none other than Albert Spaggiari, the mastermind behind the daring bank heist, who had famously escaped from a courthouse in a manner worthy of an action movie hero, reminiscent of Tom Cruise. Over those 13 years, Spaggiari had become a cult figure. Dozens of books, movies, and hundreds of newspaper articles were dedicated to his story. He didn't just disappear, he openly mocked the police, giving secret interviews and even sending humorous photos to the media to flaunt his elusiveness. But how did Albert Spaggiari become this legendary figure? His story started quite differently. In his youth, Albert chose a completely legal career path. He got a job at Fichet Bosch, a well-known company specializing in the production and maintenance of safes. The factory was located in Senegal, then a French colony. His main task was to manufacture parts for locks and safes. Occasionally, he helped clients who had forgotten their codes or whose locks had malfunctioned. These moments showcased his talent. Albert was a true master, capable of cracking even the most complex mechanisms. But life in Senegal felt monotonous and boring to him. Albert soon lost interest in his work and decided to return to France, believing he could find something far more exciting there. Upon returning, Albert quickly became involved in darker affairs. He joined the Secret Army, an organization that opposed Algeria's independence. The group was implicated in terrorist acts and even an attempted coup against President Charles de Gaulle. At the same time, Albert continued to monetize his lockpicking skills, though strictly within the bounds of the law. However, he was eventually arrested, not for his locksmithing abilities, but for his ties to the terrorist organization. Albert spent 4 years in prison. After his release, he decided to turn his life around. He opened a photography shop and settled into a quiet, routine life. Everything seemed ordinary. It appeared that Albert had found stability and peace, but the mundane life quickly bored him. Albert needed excitement, and it came in the form of a book by Robert Pollock about a thrilling bank heist. The story captivated him so much that he began dreaming of his own great project that would later go down in history. For years, Albert had been dreaming of his great project. But despite his skills and experience, finding the right target was difficult. Progress didn't stand still, and every new bank seemed like an impenetrable fortress. One evening, Albert happened to meet a bank employee from Société Générale at a party. The slightly tipsy employee revealed the bank's biggest secret. Everyone believed the vault had a state-of-the-art alarm system, but in reality, it didn't. Why? Because the building was considered so secure that an alarm system was deemed unnecessary. This was the opportunity Albert had been waiting for. The target was identified. It was time to act. He assembled a team of 7 people, and on May 7th, the work began. An old sewer line ran just 8 meters from the vault. Obtaining the sewer system's plans was easy, and they quickly identified the access point. But the easy part ended there. Ahead lay a grueling task. On paper, 8 meters might not seem like much, but in reality, digging a tunnel manually, without noisy tools to avoid drawing attention, was exhausting. They had to dig slowly and carefully, often with their bare hands. The team included professionals, a surveyor and a mining engineer, who ensured the tunnel was built to professional standards, complete with reinforced walls, lighting, and ventilation. On July 8th, they nearly got caught. President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing was visiting Nice, and police began inspecting all approaches to the city, including the sewer systems. The team had to urgently camouflage their tunnel entrance to avoid detection. Fortunately, the inspection was superficial, and the work continued. The final obstacle was the 2-meter-thick concrete wall of the vault. It had to be broken manually, but thanks to the vault's soundproofing, this wasn't a problem. They could work without fear of being overheard. Before proceeding with the robbery, the team decided to double-check that the vault truly wasn't equipped with an alarm system and was completely soundproof. To test this, one of the thieves, posing as a wealthy client, rented a safety deposit box in the bank and placed a wound-up alarm clock inside. The clock was set to ring at night when the bank was closed. The results of the test confirmed their hopes. Not a single sound was heard, neither by the guards nor by any alarm system, which truly did not exist. This gave the team full confidence that they could work calmly without fear of being detected. The crucial moment came over the weekend of July 16th to 18th during France's Bastille Day celebrations. The streets were alive with fireworks, festivities, and noise. People were busy partying, and it was the perfect cover for the operation. The team was ready, and soon the walls of the vault came crashing down. Inside, the thieves worked methodically, but at their own pace. To buy time in case of a police raid, they welded the vault door hinges from the inside, making it impossible to open from the outside. Albert, however, found time to leave the vault and have dinner at a restaurant with his wife. He later returned with food and wine for the team. The scene inside the vault resembled a party. They ate, drank, and even found risque photographs in one of the deposit boxes which they hung on the walls. Their plans were disrupted by a sudden downpour. Rising water levels in the sewer system threatened to flood the tunnel. The team had to leave earlier than planned. Despite this, they managed to open about 10% of the deposit boxes. It was a massive haul, turning the heist into one of the most infamous crimes of the century. On Monday morning, the staff and police opened the vault and were greeted by chaos. Bank executives were shocked, and influential clients were outraged. The police were scrambling, but there were few leads. Fingerprints had been wiped clean. The message left by the thieves, "No weapons, no violence, and no hate," was written in multiple handwritings. The tunnel was professionally constructed. leaving no obvious traces. The investigation stalled, and it seemed no one would be caught. The French police faced heavy criticism in the media, but as it turned out, the thieves themselves couldn't resist bragging. That fall, one of the accomplice's girlfriends boasted, "My boyfriend is the one who robbed the bank." Word spread quickly. The police traced the crime back to Albert Spaggiari. He was arrested and put on trial. During the hearings, Spaggiari was brazen and confident, giving contradictory accounts and confusing everyone. At one point, he claimed to have a list of high-ranking individuals involved in the heist. He pulled out a piece of paper and began writing. As the judge leaned in to read it, Spaggiari leapt out of the courtroom window, landing on the roof of a parked car 3 stories below. A motorcycle was waiting for him, driven by an accomplice. They sped off through the narrow streets of Nice, evading police checkpoints and sirens. Albert Spaggiari disappeared for the next 13 years. During his years on the run, Albert lived in South America, Spain, and Italy. Occasionally, he risked returning to France. With enough money and fake documents, anything was possible. He even gave secret interviews, mocking the police and praising his own genius. In 1989, Albert's body was found near his mother's home. It was later revealed that he had died of throat cancer in a rural house in Italy. His wife, Emily, had transported his body in a freezer, telling customs officers she was transporting meat. Thus ended the life of one of France's most flamboyant criminals. It seemed the story was over, but in 2010, a new twist emerged. A notorious criminal named Jacques Cassandre published a book titled The Truth About the Heist in Nice. In it, he claimed to be the true mastermind behind the operation, with Spaggiari merely serving as the public face of the crime. The courts took his claims seriously, but proving anything was impossible. Too much time had passed, and the book was considered a work of fiction. However, Cassandre was arrested for laundering money linked to the heist and was sentenced to a few years in prison. To this day, it remains unclear who the real mastermind was, Spaggiari or Cassandre. What is certain is that for its time, this heist was so bold and unusual that it continues to inspire films, books, and endless speculation.